Uh-oh. That cute little character could take America by storm. All he needs is a hook.
I'm a bad widow boy.
Ay, caramba!
Hello, Goosebumps and Goosebump heads. I'm your host, Christopher the Ruble, and I can't breathe in this thing. Oh, there we go. That's much better. And today, if you couldn't tell from the thumbnail, we're going over Slappy Beware. Ooh, the newest book in the 30th, this is the book to kind of commemorate the 30th anniversary of Goosebumps, which is, I'm going to say up front, I'm a little disappointed that this is the book we're getting for the 30th anniversary, and this is kind of one commemorating it all. I mean, I should get my grievances out of the way right here and now. I'm not the biggest fan of Slappy. I think he's kind of overrated. I think he's overused. At the beginning, I thought he was great. I thought he was terrifying. When I was a kid, Slappy did freak me out a little. Not a lot, but a little. I think a little man inside the suit inside the show kind of freaked me out a bit. But over the years, I definitely did not care for him. Like, the movie, it's kind of creepy how he's like, Papa, with R.L. Stine, It's just, it's a little weird, right? And honestly, for this review, I'm going to try to be as positive as I can be, because I try to be positive. I try to be positive about the Goosebumps books, even if I don't end up liking it that much. I think, if anything, we're going to try to do the usual, where does it land on the scarometer? Ooh. But I also kind of want to talk about the book in general, since it's so new, And I'm going to do my best to say no spoilers up front. So, if you guys are ready to hear my thoughts on Slappy Beware, grab your Iron Maiden Trooper Day of the Dead beer and get excited. Ooh. Not much of a beer drinker, but dang, that's good. Came in a coffin. That's pretty tight. So, to begin with my thoughts on this book, this is pretty much what it is. It's my thoughts and my feelings on this one. This might be the funniest Goosebumps I've ever read. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was cracking up over this book. There are some really good moments of humor here. Maybe unintentional. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? RL's the man when it comes to humor sometimes. I mean, hey, I've got a bunch of his joke books. Hey, let's be for real here. How many of you guys out there had a bunch of Jovial Bob Stein's 101 blank joke books in your house? I had a bunch because my grandma was stupid enough to buy them for me from a used bookstore. Rest in peace. But I digress on that. So, in all honesty, I think this book is actually pretty darn funny. I'm not gonna lie up front. So, let's go over kind of how the book goes. It's told in 4 parts. First part is the origin story of Slappy. The second part is almost a retelling of the original Night of the Living Dummy, just condensed down. The third part is what I would nickname Slappy and the Horrible, Terrible, No Good Day. And the last part is just an epilogue that is kind of weak and almost unnecessary. It's almost unnecessary, in all honesty. But yeah, I guess if anything, I should go over each part and what I feel about each part. So let's get into part 1. Each part actually has a name, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna have to actually look into that real quick. Give me 1 second here. Ew, Chris doesn't know how to do anything. Part 1 is called 200 Years Ago. It is a prequel story to pretty much everything. It's how Slappy was made. It literally explains in black and white. Slappy was made this way by this person, and this is why he's this way. It's honestly one of the weaker parts of the book. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I think that RL, when he puts, he does this with a lot of his special edition books and a lot of his later books in general, where they're in parts like this, and like the first part is always kind of like a prequel to the storyline or relates to it. It's a lot of hit and miss, honestly, with these ones. I think this one's kind of a miss. I don't think the story in general is that creepy. Like, honestly, it feels like it's like a short story that he wanted to use for a Tales to Give You Goosebumps for a Slappy story, but just he couldn't think of enough to put it in anything else. I'm not gonna lie, I think the first part kind of took me away from the story a bit. I was kind of like, meh on it. I wasn't creeped out, and I really wasn't that enthralled by it either. Like, in all honesty, it wasn't supposed to be there to freak you out or scare you like most Goosebumps would. It's kind of just there to be like, this is Slappy's origin story, I hope you like it. Thanks, but no thanks. I don't know, I think it's kind of it's probably the weakest part of the book, in all honesty. I've never really questioned what Slappy's origins were. I never question why he is the way he is. But here we are. We have those questions answered, and I'm not too thrilled about it. I'll be 100% honest. This was probably the weakest part of the book. At least it's the second shortest part of the book. Let's be honest here. It's only like, what, 27 pages? Not even. It is like 20 pages. Yeah, that's if even that. Let me just double check that. Yeah, it's only 20 pages long. It's like literally this much of the book here. It's not even a third of the story. It's easily, honestly, you could almost skip it if it didn't come back to the end. So I'd almost be like, oh, you could skip the beginning. But no, you have to read it to really get the last two parts at least. Whatever. Part 2, like I said, it's kind of a retelling of the original story almost. It's just titled Tampa, Florida, and that's it. It's just called Tampa, Florida, because that's where Slappy is currently. He's in Tampa, Florida. He's just being like, ooh, look at me, I'm Slappy. Ooh. Why do I make him the Joker? He's the Joker of the Goosebumps universe. Let's be honest with ourselves, guys. He's overrated. Alright. Okay. I like him. Hey, I'd be a liar if I didn't say I liked Joker, the movie. We're not talking about Joker. We're talking about Slappy. I'm sorry, Chris. Hello, me. Meet the real me. It's Mr. Wood and Slappy here. So, pretty much the story for part 2. If I had to give it any compliments, I really like the kids in this story. It's a pair of siblings where the boy, Reggie, is really good at ventriloquism, while his sister is jealous. He's pretty much good at doing a lot of different things, and he tries different things, but his sister tries to always do stuff like him, but tries to be better, but when she fails, she quits at it, and she's kind of mean about it. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like their dynamic. I like that Reggie is very supportive of his sister. I think this might be my favorite pair of siblings in a more modern Goosebumps book. Granted, I haven't read a lot of modern Goosebumps here, so I can't be 100% honest about it, but I can at least say I really like the dynamic of these siblings. So without spoiling too much, I mean, I did kind of spoil it by saying it's pretty much a retelling of the first Night of the Living Dummy. It even has Mr. Wood in there. That's for all you cool kids out there. Yo, you like Mr. Wood? I like him too, because I'm old. Woody-doo, and there was a hair in my sleeve. Part 2 is probably the scariest part of the book. It brings the most tension in there, but unfortunately, if you've read any Night of the Living Dummy book, especially the earlier ones, you know what's going on. You know what's the deal. Slappy is kind of one-dimensional when it comes down to this kind of stuff. You know what he's going to be doing, and it's kind of disappointing. If this is your first time ever reading a Goosebumps book, and you've never read a Goosebumps book, I don't know why you'd start with Slappy Beware, but okay. More power to you, I guess. I wouldn't recommend it, but okay. I think that this part... What was I even getting at? I don't even know what I'm getting at here. Cut that out. Cut it out. Thank you, Chris. But this part is definitely just a retelling of the original story for the most part. And it does have good tension building moments, but then it has moments that are really dumb. Like, honestly, the first part that I was gonna, like, I'm gonna read it out loud, honestly. I'm not considering this as a spoiler, but let's be honest here. I was a little disappointed by it. No, it's the end of chapter 11. Okay, hear me out here. Sorry about that huge cut there, guys. But this is how chapter 10 ends. She didn't see the dummy blink his eyes and turn his head from side to side. If she had, she might have been scared. You could have just left it at just the moving side to side, and I would have been like, ooh, I'm scared at this moment. But I feel like RL kind of ruined it by being like, if she had saw it, she'd be scared. Isn't that right, kids? You'd be scared. It's little moments like that that kind of, like, there's a lot of those kind of moments in this book that make me go, why? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. It's nothing special. It is nothing special on that point. Though I will admit, it is the scariest overall in the story of all the parts. The scares really don't pop up too hardcore until the end of the story. I really like the last chapter of this one. Like, I was cackling from how, like, cheesy spooky it is. Not gonna spoil it because I want y'all to read this one. It is worth a read. But dang it, like this beer, it's a pretty good ending to part 2. I enjoyed part 2, but I didn't enjoy it that much. But part 3, like I said before, is where I would call the funniest Goosebumps moments ever. It's like America's Funniest Home Videos, but slappified. Part 3 is just called The Next Day. Pretty much, literally, it is the next day after the events of part 2. And it is Slappy pretty much being adopted by a new kid, and him trying to do evil acts throughout and and all those evil acts are just failing hilariously. I'm not gonna lie, every time he failed at doing an evil act, I was laughing. I know it's supposed to be funny, and it's just supposed to be like, oh, kids will love this. I'm R.L. Stein. I approve this message. Kids should be laughing at this. Good day, and I'm R.L. Stein. But let's be honest here. I'm an adult. I shouldn't be laughing at this, but I am cracking up over Slappy failing. Maybe it's because of my kind of detest for the character that I'm just laughing at his failures, or maybe it's because I'm mean-spirited, and when someone fails, it can be kind of funny. It's a little faux pas, but whatever. Is that... No, that's not the right... It's Schadenfreude. Maybe I'm a little Schadenfreude, you know? But let's be honest here. How he keeps failing is pretty funny in the story. I was cracking up throughout the whole thing, but eventually it kind of got old and it was getting kind of stale. But it is a very short part, in all honesty. Like, part 2 is the longest part in all of them. Part 3 is pretty short, in all honesty, comparatively. It's just him trying to do evil acts and failing. It's like a bad vaudeville of like, oh, I failed. Oh, I failed again. Ah, strike 3. I'm a terrible puppet. Oh, I'm gonna die. Ah, shoot. Ooh, did I just spoil something? Yeah, whatever. Who cares? So, part 3 ends with him pretty much failing at doing an evil deed all day. And this ties back into part 1. Spoilers, I guess, with saying evil deeds. I'm not going to talk much about part 4 because it is literally like 10 pages long and not even worth mentioning because it will literally spoil the whole book. And I'm trying my best not to spoil anything here, but I'm just going to say it. Disappointing ending. I was really hopeful for something to happen here. I'm just going to say from I know a lot of you Goosebumps heads are just like, really? You really want that to happen? And I'm like, yes, I would like that to happen. If you read the book, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, sorry. overall, this is not a frightening story. This is not a frightening Goosebumps book in general. I mean, unless you're scared for Slappy, which I don't think a lot of people are, this one's not that scary. It's not creepy. I wouldn't say it's a 1 out of 5 on the scary chart. It's not a sleeping easy or anything like that. But it's definitely it's not even my Goosebumps achievement. It's not even that one. It's like, yeah, it's like the 2 out of 5 range. It's not scary. It's kind of disappointing with its thrills and chills. And maybe it's because I've read almost all the Night of the Living Dummy books. Actually, technically I've read the original 3, technically the original 4, because I have read Bride of the Living Chucky. Thank you, Chris, Bride of the Living Dummy. But I haven't read any of the more modern stuff, so I don't know if they're all kind of similar in that vein. But it does feel a lot samey, and when it gets to that point, is it really scary anymore? When you know what's going on, is it scary? No. Like, well, you can't be scared by something you've already seen before and know what's gonna happen. Hate to say it, Stein, not a spooky book. But was it entertaining, on the other hand? Somewhat. On the Scarometer, it's ranking very low. As you can see here, I can't remember the name. I'm a little buzzed, so I can't remember the names on these things. But it's kind of ranking low on that. Yeah, no. This is probably the lowest ranking of any Goosebumps book so far. And it'll be that way for a while, I think, when I get back into the actual swing of things. But overall entertainment value, out of a score of 1 out of 5? 3? It's an alright book. I'm not gonna lie. I've read like a third of it just while I was supposed to be doing something else and couldn't put it down. I didn't want to put it down because I was actually really entertained by it. And then like I've read like the last bit kind of nonstop because I didn't want to put it down because it was making me cackle so much. Part 3 is amazingly hilarious, and I'm not gonna lie. Maybe it's just because I'm kind of immature and want to see Slappy fail, and that's why I really like part 3 a lot. But honestly, I couldn't put it down after that part. Are there some... I think it's kind of the same problem with, like, the Scarometer, is it's a lot of stuff I've already seen, so I don't really feel that entertained by it. But part 3 does work really well, for me at least. I think it's really funny to see him fail. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. Alright, since there's only one cover to this book, I will give my Scarometer meeting on this cover itself, and then I'm also going to roast it a little bit, because I feel like I can be roasting these covers a little bit more. Because, hey, a lot of them can be pretty funny. But, Scarometer meter, I'm going to look at this one, and you know what? There's a lot of things I like about this cover. Not going to lie here. So, I'm not going to lie, I like the light, like how, when you have the light reflecting, Slappy's eyes glow slightly differently and kind of look like more haunting and just like, you know? I dig that. I dig it a lot. I also like the ha-ha-ha-has in the background. Not gonna lie. It gives me joy. But I don't think it's that spooky of a cover. I think I'm gonna give it the 3 out of 5 range. I think it's gonna be the, it's kind of spooky. Kind of whatever. Whatever the 3 out of 5 is. I forgot to pull up the Scarometer, so I can't remember the names of everything. I'm a terrible host, I know. This is a very spur-of-the-moment video, because I still need to finish Monster Blood. I also still need to do the monster profile on Dr. Brewer. Whoopsies! I think I'm just going to focus on just doing Monster, just reading the books, but hey, whatever. You know, glug, 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 glug. But that's just me. But let's roast this cover a little bit. I feel like this cover could be roasted a little bit. Let's just set it over the fire here. Ooh, that's nice and toasty. How hot. But no. This looks like the game cover to a YouTuber's newest Let's Play for a bad ventriloquist dummy horror game. Ooh, I pissed myself in fear? Ah. This cover looks like the Joker had a little too much fun writing ha all over it. This cover looks like someone needs to get clear eyes. Boop, boop. Clear Eyes. This cover is alright. That's all I got. Hey, so this was kind of more of a spur of the moment since this book came out. If you like what you saw, what you heard, and all that other stuff, hey, leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the book, let me know. Maybe you didn't like this book. I'm kind of curious how people feel about this book. I'm feeling it's kind of mid. Not gonna lie. I feel it's a very mid kind of Goosebumps book. It's fun, yes, but it misses out on a lot of things. It kind of strikes out on a couple things. Doesn't make me want to not read any more Goosebumps. I mean, I will gladly read any Goosebump. You give me a Goosebump and I'll read it. Hey, thanks, Billy. Yeah, here, let me just hand you a Goosebump there. Don't hand me that one again. I already reviewed it. Thank you very much. But yeah, let's be honest with ourselves. Did we have fun today? I know I did. Alright, thank you as always. Hey, make sure to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Like I said, if you've read this one already, give me a light review down below. I'm curious how people feel about this one. I'm being honest here. I do want to see how people are liking or maybe disliking this book, especially since it's the 30th anniversary book. This is the book that they were like, oh, this is what's coming out for 30-year anniversary. Here you go, kids. Enjoy. Personally, I'm a little sad that this is the one they chose for it, but whatever. You know, I mean, 30 years only comes, once. The hiccups. Oh, no. But, as always, I'd like to thank my patrons at patreon.com/speaking of which, for $1 a month, you get a bonus episode every week. You get episodes of the podcast up early. You get my show notes. Hell, you might even get something else for free. Who knows? It's $1. Just pay $1. It's cool, guys. I really appreciate it if you do. But be like my two patrons here, Trey, aka at Yertosaurus on Twitter, and Weiss at Force Left Hander or Pikachu1 on YouTube. Follow them where you can because they're awesome. Hey, as always, stay spooky. Next week, I think we're going to finally get into Monster Blood. I don't know how I feel about doing monster profiles. I'm kind of like, on those. Just, maybe another time. I'd rather just keep reading the books. That's just me, though. Woo!